Hello and welcome. This is Chapter 2, Early Beginnings, and DavionFuxa's A Conversation with Myself. Before I begin to talk about my opinions, reasonings, and so forth, I should probably talk a little bit about my childhood and early history where they began to start to form and develop. In the year of 1986, I was born of cesarean section from my mother. I was born and raised in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, and I continue to live here in the city to this day. I'm Caucasian, of Scottish descent, with green eyes and dark brown hair, standing at about 5 feet and 10 inches and weighing about 140 pounds. My parents and family on my father's side belong to the Anglican Church of Canada, and as such the Church of England has had a big impact on my upbringing and my early love for Christianity. The family on my mother's side belonged to a different sect of Christianity. While they lived in Prince Edward Island, and I didn't see them as much, they also had a big impact on my upbringing and my fallout with Christianity. While my father's family lived close to each other, and if I wanted to, I could go visit any of my aunts or uncles or call them at any time, my mother's family was a bit more spread out. One of my aunts lived in Ottawa, while another aunt had gone back to her family roots and lived in Scotland. The rest lived in Prince Edward Island. My preteen childhood was spent living with my parents. They were a busy couple who both held jobs but certainly fought often with me. Like most parents, they wanted much for their child. They organized many play dates with the female children of other parents my age, and got me involved with soccer and persuaded me to play the violin. My parents also wanted me to have a good education. They weren't able to enroll me in any of the local French preschools, but they were able to enroll me at a local French elementary school. Being in Canada, they knew that if I was bilingual in English and French, I would have many opportunities opened up to me. Sadly for me, though, I apparently had linguistic problems, and this was identified by my primary teacher, some of which still haunt me today, as is apparent. While it was possible I could learn French, it would nonetheless be difficult. So the advice given was that I should go across the street to the English elementary school. It should be noted that both English and French are taught regardless of the school I would have gone to, but the focus of what I was taught in would correspond to the focus of the school. I did have French classes at the English elementary school, as well as in the junior high, though I never really excelled excel or learned the language. This I found out in high school when I tried to take a French class, but pretty well was unable to understand anything. As the family grew, my parents became busier and busier. Eventually, during the later grades of elementary school, my parents started hiring babysitters to take care of me and my siblings during the times they weren't able to. Sadly, hiring babysitters was not something my parents were too good at, and we went through a few of them. I don't know how many babysitters we had, but I do know that eventually my parents asked my father's grandparents to take care of my other siblings. They took care of the babysitting duties until the end of my elementary education. My earliest memories are scattered and diverse, but the one that I remember vividly, that held the most meaning to me, was with my grandfather at the age of 5 or 6. My grandfather, who was a big toy model train collector, had let me play with his controls for his trains. Not understanding physics, though, I eventually derailed his model train from the tracks. That action earned me a proper scolding, of course, but eventually he let me play with his trains again, along with proper instructions on how to control them. I hold my grandfather in high esteem. He had worked hard in his life, had supported a family, earned a tiny sum of money for retirement, and enjoyed his life. Even while in his 70s, he was a handyman, helping people fix their little house problems or broken equipment, and building little projects. While my grandfather lived in the city, you could have also mistaken him for being part of the rural folk. He wasn't too fond of the heat of the summer during summertime, and every summer he would retreat down to a rented cottage that he owned, 40 minutes outside the city. There he had many friends that he associated with, and undertook several summertime activities. My grandfather, however, was also very strict about going about things, and all around a very interesting mannered person. He was never too happy in terms of the upbringing I had in terms of my manners, and pretty well he took it upon himself to teach me them. Along with my grandmother, my grandfather took good care of me and my siblings. The basic pattern each day was to get up and prepare for school in the morning, go to school, head over to my grandparents for lunch, head back to school, participate in any recreational sports or violin practice I was involved in that were occurring, and then go home to my grandparents again and stay there until my parents came for us. Around the time that elementary school was ending, I would be transferred to junior high, though a couple of different things occurred with me than most other people. First, most schools cover a specific area that kids living in are supposed to attend. However, I didn't end up going to that school that I was supposed to attend. I instead went to attend a junior high school that was far closer to where my grandparents lived. There were a few difficulties with this in that the area restrictions were fairly absolute. To get around this, though, it was simply listed that I lived at my grandparents'. Thus, I would be within the school area for the junior high school that was closer to them. I don't know if my grandparents expected that I would have actually lived with them in order to keep going to that junior high, but eventually I ended up living with them anyways. For the most part, and to many people, my parents acted as any pair of parents are expected to act. My dad, for the most part, was an upstanding individual who would drive other people's kids home or chaperone the soccer team. My mother was enough of a housewife that she would pick up after her kids, while having her hobbies that she would engage in during her free time. However, my parents were not too much a shining example at home. To those who knew what things were like inside the house, they would be disgusted or otherwise sickened at what they saw. My parents were hoarders. To those who don't understand the concept, my parents were pathological collectors, a term characterized by the excessive acquisition of an inability or unwillingness to discard large quantities of objects that would seemingly qualify as useless or without value. For any who have watched an episode of Hoarders on A&E, my parents were ranked quite high for some of the messier homes seen from there. To describe what it was like to live with my parents before I moved in with my grandparents would be describing what it would be like to live in a sea of garbage. Wherever you looked, you would see clutter. Clothes, a fish tank that was never used, kids' toys that were no longer needed, books and magazines, you named it and you could probably find it. Living there, you would be unable to walk through a room or down a hall without having to shuffle by side foot or duck under jump over something. In fact, I had to climb over a pile of clothes to get into my bed. As spring was approaching in the first year of attending junior high school, I eventually decided I couldn't live like that. This led to me literally abandoning my parents' house to live entirely at my grandparents'. This concludes the first real chapter of my recordings. I'm just going to make a quick note for this video that you can probably expect that I'll be doing this semi-annually, just before I do one of my little talk videos that describes what I'm doing for my overall channel. I will probably release these basically on like a 2-week type period grand of things. As for the recordings for comments, if they come, I'll probably do that within a week or so of the video that I release. This will give me about a week or so to actually do the next video, because I'll most likely do the comment video first, and then I'll only start writing the next part of the chapter after people or after I do the comments video. And basically, what you're basically going to see is that the comment videos that I'll do will basically lead into the next video. So if you have comments or criticisms or anything, know that those are actually going to affect what the outcome of these videos are going to be like. As stated, they'll probably be between 10 to 20 minutes in length. The first couple are probably going to be a little bit shorter than the rest, but you can expect I'll put a little bit more effort into drawing out these videos, so don't expect that they'll all be short like this. As also stated from the preface episode, I'm going to be monetizing these videos, so that's how I'm going to be making. I'm going to actually try and make money from these videos, and hope you'll watch them, enjoy. And if you do, then we'll both benefit. You'll be entertained and I'll get a little money. Alright, that's been about 10 minutes for this video. I didn't expect to make it any longer than that for now. So, good day to you, and send your comments and I'll have a video perhaps for you.